Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to do a quick video here, nice early morning video to start the week. I guess overnight something transpired here with Phil, and I'm just hearing about it here. Woke up this morning, had my Discord inundated with DMs from people and being tagged and shit. So I guess there was an issue that happened during the Avowed stream last night where the he was notified that he needs to update his bias because, of course, he hasn't updated his bias yet. So let's just take a look. This is the first time I'm seeing it. Let's see what happens.
Oh, shit. Where the hell was I putting the camera? Shit. Was it middle? Was it bottom right? I think it was bottom right for Avowed, isn't it?
Shout out to Raw Phil here. Raw Phil is the only one that has this portion of the video. Phil did not record this portion. I was going to go to Phil's actual site so Phil doesn't complain and go, oh, look at the quality is so bad and everything, blah, blah, blah. But Phil did not record this portion of the video for good reason.
Let's boot it up. And also, I'd like to know how the volume sounds because I was playing Suikoden earlier and I... Thanks. It's telling me I need to update the BIOS on my motherboard. Great. Can I play the game now?
So let's just rewind this a bit really quick. Get it up on the screen. So Avowed WinGDK shipping.exe has detected your computer is using an Intel 13th or 14th gen processor that does not have the proper updates installed to address the potential processor instability issues. It is highly recommended to update the BIOS on your motherboard to the latest version of the Intel Microcode 128 or later. Now, the latest version is actually 0129. Phil is, of course, using a BIOS that's over a year old on his motherboard B760M-C. Now, let's look at Phil's specs here really quick for his PC. This is the gaming PC, not the streaming PC. And they no longer sell this from Thermaltake. This has now been discontinued. So these are the specs. So if you want to pause it, this is all the information that I got from Thermaltake. I contacted Thermaltake back in September when Phil got this system. I asked them for the exact breakdown and model brand information for every piece of hardware in his PC, and they obliged. Thank you very much, Thermaltake. So this is what Phil has in his system, 14700KF, which means it's a K-series processor unlocked, and it does not have an iGPU. That's what the notation means. ASRock B760M-C motherboard. Again, it's a very low-end motherboard, but it's better than the one that's in his streaming PC. He's got Thermaltake Tough RAM, 5600 megatransfers per second. Again, on Intel, I would like to see nothing lower than 6400 megatransfers at CL28. And then he's got the 4070 Ti Super. It is the MSI Ventus 2X. It does not have 3 fans. Like I put in here, it has poor cooling. It is poor cooling because you can get stuff with triple fans that are a lot better. But again, for what Phil paid for, Phil paid $2,200 for the system. And no, it was not donated. Phil stated that it was donated by a fan. And then Phil admitted that he bought it later on. I don't know if Darziak had his hands in this at all either. It's not a bad built PC. Again, just the memory, the NVMe drive in the system, the power supply, the case are questionable. That's basically what it comes down to. So let's take a look at the issue here. So basically what the instability issue is, 13th and 14th gen processors are the ones that are affected. The 13th gen, not so much. The issue that happened with 13th gen is the oxidization issue. That's more physicality, right? That's a physical issue with the processor. It happened to a small bunch of batches of Intel 13th gen, but this microcode does affect performance on 13th gen CPU. It is more focused on the 14th gen series, and this means that basically it has to do with voltage. And you can see here, these are the 4 main root causes of the issue. The problem that occurred is the 14th gen isn't a true successor to, or let me say successor, like Phil says it. it really isn't a step up from the 13th gen. It's just a factory OC'd 13th gen processor. They equate to about 1% to 3% performance improvements depending on clocks. Now, in order for Intel to hit these clocks, they just basically bumped the voltage. But this caused instability and degradation. Now, what I mean by degradation is, over time, when you use your CPU, when you use your PC, parts degrade over time. Intel pumping higher voltage means that it's going to degrade quicker. And this causes instabilities like crash to desktop CTDs, right? Blue screen, stuff like that. Just instability in the system as a whole. And we've seen this happen with Phil here a couple times. Like, he's had a lot of issues with instability. I can't say for certain that, yes, this is the root cause of it. If you are experiencing instability issues and you don't have this BIOS installed, chances are it's already too late. The BIOS update's not going to help you, okay? You'd be looking at getting the CPU itself replaced. When Phil purchased this PC, the 7800X3D was available from AMD. That would have been a much better buy. It's the exact same price as like a 14700KF at the time, and it would have performed much better because Phil plays all his games at 1080p. So having a 7800X3D over a 14700KF, yeah, it would be like a huge performance increase, and it would have cost Phil the same amount of money. This is Phil's gaming PC here. It actually isn't because they no longer provide it, but this is the exact same system, except this one comes now with a 1000-watt power supply. It comes with a 4090, and it comes with a 14900KF, but everything else in the system is exactly the same. So they no longer sell the i7 version, they only sell the i9 version of this system. And as you can see here, it's an ASRock V760M-C. The MSI Ventus, basically everything here is what we already stated in the system specs. Now what we're going to do quickly here is we're going to look at the BIOS. This is Phil's motherboard here. Underneath support, these are the BIOS updates. Now I will recommend that if you are upgrading the BIOS, that you update the BIOS outside of Windows. Do not use the software that's provided from the motherboard manufacturer. So ASRock will supply its own software that controls things like PWM fan control, ARGB, stuff like that. Don't update it through that software. Copy it to a USB key and boot it into the BIOS and do it through the flash utility. I will try to show this in the Prophet OS video. Yes, I know I keep saying it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It is coming, don't worry. So we can see here that added Intel 13 support, Intel application optimization, right? Optimized BIOS, defaults, SKU, Intel recommended settings, update CPU microcode. So we can see that there are BIOS updates. Phil is using this BIOS here. Patch UEFI, logo fail, optimize processor settings, optimize BIOS settings, improve memory performance. So Phil is missing a lot of fixes for his motherboard, which are like detrimental to the performance of his system. Now, it's not to say that he won't run into issues. Like, I can't predict that. I will say that whenever I build a PC, or even when somebody brings me a PC to support, or to fix for them, right? Whenever I fix it, even after I'm done fixing it, I will do things like a BIOS update. I'll make sure all the drivers are up to date and everything. I'll make sure firmware is up to date. That way, I know that I'm giving them back a PC that is going to have all the latest updates and it's going to be as stable as possible. Phil doesn't do any of this, right? We know that for a fact. Look at the issues he's having with his streaming PC. Darziak and I have spoken in comment sections about how to fix Phil's PC. Phil is refusing to do that. Darziak is still helping Phil, which is just pathetic in my eyes. Like, if Phil's not going to listen and do what is required for his business to operate properly, why would you offer him support, Darziak? Like, seriously. Like, why are you still helping him? He obviously doesn't give a fuck about your input, right? So, does Phil need to update his BIOS? Yes. Like, most definitely, especially since he's gaming on this PC. His CPU is then going to be pushed to its limits. So, update the fucking BIOS, Phil. Right? It's not that hard to do. Just copy it to a USB key, boot into the BIOS, go to the flash utility, update the BIOS, let it do its thing, boot back into the BIOS, restore BIOS defaults, let it boot once, go back into the BIOS, and reset all the settings that you want. Done. Right? It's not a difficult thing to do. But yeah, that's basically all I have to talk about here this morning. So a nice quick video for you all. Again, if you like my content, please subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you all in the next one.